Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Metis Tech Show. On today's episode, we'll be talking about the 7107 error code. But first, the Metis Minute. Today's Metis Minute is on how to view error codes on City Multi-Equipment using Maintenance Tool. In order to view error codes using Maintenance Tool on City Multi-Equipment, you must first connect the Maintenance Tool converter to both the system, wherever there is MNet, and to your computer. Once connected, open the Maintenance Tool software and select MN converter and COM port that you are using. Once connected, you'll be prompted to either automatically or manually search for the addresses in the system. Use auto search and allow the system to locate the addresses found in the system. Once the search is completed, locate the tab above the address grid labeled Maintenance Data and click on it. You will then have the option to view the malfunction log, as well as a few other options like function settings and dip switch positions. Make sure the malfunction log is selected, click on the OC, then click Monitor. Maintenance Tool will display the last 10 error codes as well as a detail code if available. It will provide a brief description of the error along with the time and date that the error occurred. Remember, error codes can stack up and display in order of when they occurred. From this screen, you can also clear error codes, which can help better track which errors are new. Thanks for listening to today's Metis Minute. Now let's start the show.
The Metis Tech Show.
Welcome to the Metis Tech Show, a show for HVAC professionals by HVAC professionals.
I like how you guys bounce back and forth between heat pump talk and food talk.
The Metis Tech Show.
Mitsubishi.
So, we were in Dallas last week.
Yes.
And we had a lot of good food.
Oh, my goodness.
What would you say was your favorite?
My favorite had to be Babe's Chicken.
Yeah, I agree.
That is like a mama pop type of place, country cooking. Boy, it was good.
Yeah, I was a little weary walking in. It's usually not my type of restaurant because it's very like country style, old. They had all the goofy stuff on the walls, and but the food was so good.
Especially when they do line dancing. I mean, that alone tells you how good that restaurant's going to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about that. They did the line dancing halfway through.
Yes.
That was funny.
That was the entertainment, to say the least.
Yeah. What did you get again?
I first got the chicken steak.
Yep.
The breaded chicken steak.
Yeah,
and that thing it was big.
Yeah.
And then, we had all the fixings. We had corn, we had mashed potatoes, we had green beans.
Yeah.
And they just keep bringing them.
The biscuits?
And the biscuits. Oh, those biscuits were good.
Yeah. So I didn't know that this was a thing called family style.
Yes.
But basically, we picked our protein. We picked what meat we wanted, and they mostly just had chicken, but you had the steak option. And then other than that, they had pre-designated sides. And with those sides, it would just, when they were empty, they would come back and refill them. And so like you said, it was green beans, it was mashed potatoes, it was gravy, it was biscuits.
Corn.
And corn.
That corn was good too.
The corn, it was like kind of sweet.
Yes.
But it was just that endless. So, you ate as much as you wanted. The other thing was the salad in the beginning, which I thought was kind of funny.
Oh, that was good.
It was a really good appetizer because it was a salad, but it was really just cut up lettuce.
Yes.
And then
iceberg.
Yeah.
But it was fresh.
Dressing. Yeah.
It wasn't quilted.
No.
It was fresh.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good. And then I had the, the smoked chicken.
Yes.
And so me and Brian Derry, who was there, we had both got the smoked chicken. And basically they brought it, both orders on one plate. And it was basically like deconstructed entire chicken.
How do they keep that stuff from falling?
I have no idea. There were some other tables. They had like
even
stacks
stacked up
of country fried steaks.
3 high.
Yeah. It was interesting.
Steve and I had the chicken steak.
Yep.
And that was awesome.
I mean, you had the
two people could eat one of those, but we're manly men, so we could handle one of them.
Yeah, and Steve warned us. Yeah, Steve warned us before, and he's like, "I'm going to pig out here." And then he got another, like a 3-piece fried chicken.
We ordered an order of fried chicken.
And that was also amazing.
Yes. Best fried chicken I ever had.
Definitely. It was so good. So I thought about it afterwards because I was like, I didn't eat too bad. I only had one piece of fried chicken and the rest was all, just the smoked chicken, wasn't breaded or anything. But then I thought about exactly how much chicken I ate. I had a chicken breast, I had 2 drumsticks, I had 2 wings, and I had a thigh.
Oh, my word.
So I was like a thigh and a breast away from eating an entire chicken.
You could have walked out of there clucking.
Yeah, it was really good. But yes, Steve definitely took the cake. I think he ate more than any of us.
Yeah, well, after we ate everything, then Steve and I started thinking, are we going to have dessert?
Yeah.
And I'm telling Steve, where I'm going to put it. And he goes, don't worry about it. Let's see what's on the menu. So he orders the house cheesecake. I forget what the name of it was.
He had strawberry shortcake.
Strawberry shortcake. Yeah. And then I had to go with the coconut cream pie.
Yep.
My favorite.
Yep.
Boy, was it good.
Yeah, I got to try both. And I did like the strawberry shortcake a little better, but only because the way that they caramelized those strawberries, like they were just so sweet.
It was awesome.
Yeah. But the coconut cream pie was good too.
It was.
Very
it was
good.
Delicious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then shortly after we left, and we were asking, so what's for breakfast?
Yeah, that was funny. So unfortunately, Felix wasn't there to join us, but he is here on the podcast today. Welcome to the Metis Tech Show today. We're going to be talking about the 7107 error code. So this is probably going to happen on startup
Most
more
of the time.
often than anything else. But it's one of those ones that does come up a fair amount. It's one of the ones we call our common startup faults. So I thought it'd be a good place to kind of dive into another one of those error codes that we do every once in a while. So why don't we just start with talking about the causes? So again, we are just going to pull up the manual, look at the manual, and discuss those steps and kind of how they happen, why something like this would occur based on what it's telling us for the causes.
Yeah, 7107, it's the port setting error.
Right. Yeah, so typically you set your dial wrong on the indoor unit for the branch number. But we'll talk about some other things that could cause it because it's not only that port addressing being the problem. There are other either parts of the address structure or piping that could affect this as well. So just starting with cause number 1, the model total of indoor units per each port or per each port merge is greater than the specification. Now, when we say port merge, what we're talking about is when we're twinning ports. So we need to use adjacent ports. So if I have, a 72 or a 96, for example,
Correct.
on on port 4, I have to use port 5 for that twinning kit. If I were to skip a port, that would cause an issue. So it's making sure that we have both of those merged or those adjacent ports merged. And our limit as far as capacity goes in that case is 96,000 BTUs. So if we were to exceed that somehow, that's when we would also get that 7107.
For those of you that don't know, the maximum capacity for a single port is 54,000 BTUs.
Right. So we're not limited to one indoor unit, but we are limited by capacity per port at 54,000 BTUs. And then if we're using 2 ports, we're limited to 96.
Nice.
So that's number 1. So that could be something outside of that SW14 dial being set wrong, your branch number
unit.
dial.
Yep.
It could just be a matter of I chose to do 3 indoor units and they all were 3 ton. All right. If I do 3 ton indoor units on my single port, I'm going to get this error because you can't have that much capacity on a single port.
Or even a 72, like you said, or 72 or 96 on a single port. You're going to get that port setting error.
Yeah, you got it. Yep. So cause number 2 would be that we have 4 or more indoor units connected to the same port. So again, this is piping practices, right?
Yep.
Now, in reality, you could actually have 4 indoor units on a single port, but what's more likely to be the case there?
3 is the maximum.
3 is the maximum. Yeah.
As long as they don't exceed the maximum 54K.
Yeah.
You can just need to think in consideration that when you have those 3 units, they're going to be acting as heat pumps. You won't have simultaneously heating and cooling. They will be either heating or cooling, the 3 of them.
Yeah, right. So that's a good point. When you put more than one indoor unit on a single port, we can send different refrigerant to each port. But if there's 3 units on a single, that's either getting hot gas or high pressure subcooled liquid. We can't mix it once we get through out of that port.
They have to be operated at the same mode of operation.
Yep.
Where, unlike Felix said, either heating or cooling.
Yeah. Yep. So more commonly, that may happen. Hopefully you have a DSB on the system and you wouldn't make the mistake of putting 4 indoor units on a single port. This would be an example of, whoops, I set my dial wrong, right? So when we're doing our piping, we may have 2 indoor units or 3 indoor units that are on a single port. And then when we pipe that 5th or 4th unit, let's say it's on port 5, but we accidentally set that dial to 4. The system says, okay, you're saying it's on port 4. Well, we already have 3 indoor units on port 4. Now we're going to get that 7107 error code.
Yep.
Very important when you're performing that configuration of 3 units using Mitsubishi kits for that. Don't make your own keys or joints.
Right. Yep.
Like our own Y adapter instead of making one up on site. Yeah, good point. Yeah, and then, I see this happen sometimes. The contractor may think, well, 4 units, that may be small enough to still keep it within the 54,000 BTU limit. But again, it's not just that. Is you got oil return, you've got refrigerant amount that has to get to each indoor unit. So it's not just, that's what we limited to 3.
Right. Yeah, right, to optimize the efficiency.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a matter of setting the dial wrong. Another one too is your branch controller sub addressing, which we'll talk about probably on a couple of these. But what I talk about when we teach class and we talk about the addressing structure, that branch controller sub address is the one I bring up last, and I tell them is the most important.
Yes.
Because it's a little confusing, right? It's the lowest connected indoor unit to that sub plus 50. And so sometimes people will think, okay, lowest indoor unit plus 50. Well, no, that's our outdoor unit, right? And so it's the lowest connected indoor unit to that sub plus 50. And what that's doing is when you first power on the system, let's say, for example, the first indoor unit on a system or on a sub, is address 7.
Right.
So when you address the sub branch controller 57, when you flip on the outdoor unit, what it's telling the system is, okay, if I'm 57, every indoor unit address 7 and above belongs to me, which means that when address 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever calls for refrigerant, send the refrigerant this way.
To the sub.
Yeah. So if you have that address set wrong, particularly if you set it too high, like let's say your lowest address is 7 and you set it to 58, now you've got address number 7 with a dial set for an SW14 dial set for port number 1. Where does the system think that indoor unit is?
On the main.
Back at the main on port 1.
Yep.
And so when that guy calls for heating or cooling, what happens? System sends refrigerant to port 1 on the main. And now, eventually what will happen is the system will run for long enough, there won't be a thermistor change on the indoor unit, and then you get an error. And thankfully, that error code will lead you to, hey, check your port setting, because you might have it on the wrong, or it'll also tell you to check ball valves, right? Things like that. So it's not just your port setting on the indoor unit. You may have an issue with your address structure at the sub, too. So what's number 3 for causes?
So number 3 is when 2 ports are used, the port with a smaller number is not connected to the indoor unit.
Yeah. So what this is talking about is when you're addressing or port assigning an indoor unit with twinned ports, you always want to, like we talked about, you want to use adjacent ports, and the address or the port dial on your indoor unit needs to be set to the lower of the 2 ports. If you set it to the higher, it's going to assume that it's that one and the next one.
5,
it'll
for
send it to
instance,
the wrong.
if you're using 4 and 5, you want to set it to 4. If it's 5 and 6, you want to set it to 5.
Right.
So because if you set, like you say, if you set it to 6, then the system is going to look for 6 and 7.
Yep.
And there's going to be confusion there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You'll get problems.
Oh yeah.
Number 4 would be for the address of the branch controller sub. 50 is not added to the smallest indoor unit connected to that sub. That's what we just talked about. That's a big one, and that's one that I bring up a lot in class when we talk about the addressing and we go over these common startup faults. Is I would be more inclined to say that this is the more common issue. Your sub address isn't address, or your sub BC is not addressed properly. Sometimes even after we teach it, you'll have them go and do the addressing exercise.
Yes.
And they've got 51 as their outdoor, 52 as their outdoor, 53 as their branch main, and 54 as their sub.
Yeah.
And you're like, no.
And that's a good point, because in the classes, I even tell them to write it down.
Mm-hmm.
Is the lowest address connected to it? So I tell them, this could be your reference manual in the field. So if you write it down that way, you tend to understand it a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually where I pass around the highlighter. When we have that, we talk about the address ranges, and then underneath in parentheses, we have the actual rules, and I have them highlight the rules. I was like, the addresses themselves, not as important, right? Our indoor units can be anything 1 to 50. I always start at the indoor unit because those are the ones that set the rules for everything else, and just go in order. And then after that, everything else can be addressed based on those rules. So I follow those rules, and usually we don't get hung up. But, it can be confusing because we're one of the few systems out there where there's manual addressing. Number 5, in the system to which multiple BC controllers are connected, the indoor unit address connected to the BC controller is not set as shown below. And there's 3 different categories here. The first is the indoor unit address, which is connected to the BC controller main. Right. Felix, why don't you grab the second one?
The indoor unit address, which is connected to the BC controller sub and
the indoor unit address. The third one is the indoor unit address, which is connected to the BC controller, which is sub n+1.
Right. So what we're talking about there is your address structure for indoor units. And this is something I talk about when we get into the discussing future expansion.
Yes.
Is that when you go from main to sub to maybe another sub BC, you have to kind of work your way up in indoor unit address numbers. You got to start with your lowest addresses on your main, then go up to your sub, and then up to your second sub if you have one, up to 11 subs we could have on a system with an NGen. So you have to kind of work upwards with those addresses. What can happen sometimes, especially when you don't future expand, is just using an example. If you have ports, 1 through 5 on an 8-port branch controller main, right, and you use those addresses 1 through 5, and then off of your sub, you go 6, 7, 8 on a 4-port.
Which will work.
It'll work. And then you go to add an indoor unit, right? You're going to go add that indoor unit off of your main. Now, the addresses 6, 7, and 8 are already accounted for on your sub. So can I just put 9 on my main? The problem is, because of that BC sub address being 50 more than the lowest indoor unit connected to it, when I say, okay, I'm putting a unit on the main BC and I'm going to address it 9, where does the system think it is? Off of my sub.
Yes.
So we have to kind of work our way up when we go from main to sub to any subsequent sub BCs, that we work our address range up. We can't go back to our main with a higher address because of that rule that we have for the addressing of the sub.
And that's what I tell them in the classes. Address the indoor units according to the ports, not necessarily according to the addressing range.
Right.
Like you mentioned, on an 8-port box, you may only be using 5 ports. You got 3 for future expansion, but I'm going to address the next address on the sub to 9.
Right.
That way, in case I do add any indoor units, I don't have to worry about changing any addresses.
Yeah, right. Everything's already set up for you. And what you find is that, let's say you did decide, sometimes it's a large office and they decide to cut it in half and add an indoor unit for that other office now. So you need to add something to that main. If you choose to go that route and you haven't accounted for that future expansion, now when you put that indoor unit on there, you need to address it 6, right? And then you need to go to your sub and change all of your indoor unit addresses going up. Absolutely. And you have to readdress your sub, and you have to readdress any ME controllers. So as soon as you have to, just by design of the building or whatever, as soon as you have to add an indoor unit to that main and you haven't accounted for future expansion, everything down that bus line needs a change of address.
Has to be readdressed.
So not so much a port assignment, but the address itself is going to need to change. And so, it's something to be aware of and something to consider. And what a lot of folks who are installing use is DSB. DSB will do the addressing for you. You can pick all your units. It'll tell you how much your piping is, all that great stuff. We've talked about DSB a million times.
Yep.
However, DSB is not going to account for future expansion.
No.
So if you're just getting a DSB blueprint from an engineer or somebody in sales and they say, this is what you're putting in, that address structure may make sense if they know for sure they're never going to future expand, but it might make sense to go, you know what? Yeah, we're supposed to have 1 through 7 on the main and then jump to 8. Well, let's just leave 8 open on that unused port, we'll start at 9 on our sub and keep working our way up.
And you can manually address it that way.
Of course.
Instead of using the automatic address feature.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the things to be aware of is anytime you let DSB auto address, just double check it and make sure, because it's trying to follow some other rules. Like we have the mob before me rule we might have talked about where ME controllers cannot come and address before an MA controller. And it'll try to account for that, but it may actually end up breaking some of the rules related to your sub BC. So just be aware that it's not a perfect science and you need to always double check that address structure once you've auto addressed.
It's always important to be consistent, your DSB with your actual installation.
Yeah.
Right.
And your central controller if you're using one. Because I've seen all those discrepancies and then the same technician that is going to come in service is struggling to find what we're trying to do because they're completely lost.
Yeah, that's actually a good point too, because if you decide, like let's say you have this DSB and you decide, I'm going to change the address structure because it makes more sense for future expansion, and then they give that same DSB to the controls guy who's going to configure your central controller. He's going to put in all the addresses from that DSB. He needs the most updated of what you actually did so that we can communicate with all of our units. So that's a good point.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's all the symptoms or the causes that are on the 7107. If you end up getting this, like I said, it's probably going to be on startup. I'm trying to think of a time where it'd be on service. The only thing I could really think of is if you replaced a board and you had to readdress the unit and you didn't match
future expansion and not readdress it.
That too. Yeah, that's a good point. But, it's probably going to happen on a startup. If you do, I would be first looking at my whatever indoor unit is saying is giving me that 7107. Usually it's going to say it's the branch controller giving you that 7107. But double check your addresses, double check your port assignments, and then definitely make sure that your sub BC is addressed properly. Those are the two big ones.
And you can check it through on your startup through maintenance tool.
Mm-hmm.
Just check it one port at a time.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good point. All right. Anything else?
So where are we going to go eat?
I don't know. Where do we normally go to for a first night? We're actually in Sewanee this week for the training team meeting.
Sewanee, for those people that are from the South.
What is it?
You said Sewanee.
Oh, I can leave. I can drop the U.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have like a go-to place on the first night? I don't think so.
No,
we always go to Noodles for lunch.
Yes, absolutely. And that soup is always so good.
Yeah, I tried something different this time.
You know how it is. Paul and Steve are gonna derail everything, so we normally leave it up to them.
Yeah, that's
to make that decision. They've never done us wrong, though.
Yeah, the only thing you can plan on with Steve and Paul is don't plan on anything.
Exactly.
Is there anything I'm in the mood for? I'm always in the mood for chicken wings. Probably mentioned that like
you
400
are
times
you
on
are
the air,
one chicken wing aficionado for sure.
You know what's funny is we went to Duff's last week.
Yes,
and I didn't even finish my wings.
You didn't?
I wasn't feeling it.
I got the boneless, and I finished my 10.
Yeah.
It was good.
I think I probably would have if I got the boneless because I had the boneless on the salad that I got.
Right.
It came with like a couple boneless tenders.
So there you go.
That was fantastic. But when I got to the wings, I think it was because I wasn't a huge fan of the sauces. I was like, kind of.
So what kind of sauces did you get?
I got a mango habanero and hot honey. And I think I'm too picky about sauces. If they're like runny and really vinegary, I kind of lose interest.
I like them thick.
Yeah, I like more of like a sticky.
Yes.
If it's gonna have a sweetness in it, I want it like sticky and I'm licking my fingers afterwards. And I almost wish, like, I should have just gone with buffalo because that's like a safe.
It is a safe way
option.
to go.
Yeah,
I had mine with teriyaki and the garlic honey, and it was very thick, so it was awesome. It was very delicious.
That's good.
I like mine dry, just lemon pepper.
That's it.
Oh, you like the dry rubs?
That's it,
yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, a lot of people like those. I've never really got into them. I've done like dry rubs at home when I like don't have a sauce, but I'm sure at restaurants they're fantastic.
I like the crunchiness.
Yeah.
Of the skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. Actually, you would have liked last week we went to this, we were just talking about that Babe's Chicken, and they had smoked chicken that you could order, but it had the wings. And so you could like pull it off and you got the drumstick and you got the flat.
The flat.
And man, it was like really, really flavorful skin on the outside, and then it was juicy on the inside. Oh man, you would have loved it. I know I did. This is my favorite part of it. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that about does it.
All right.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one.
Hasta la vista.